In the last video about buying versus leasing a new car, I introduced some confusing terminology, and I should use this video to clear it up. The key decision that we haven't finished examining is whether the driver is going to purchase the car at the end of the lease or whether they're going to put that car back on the leasing company. And we were looking from the leasing company perspective in the last video, so we're going to continue with that now. The one condition is that the market value of the car, which we've called F, would exceed R, the residual value that's in the leasing agreement. So R is the price that the driver can purchase the car from at the end of the lease, and it's determined at the time of the leasing agreement. 4 years later, the car is actually worth F. So we can assume that if the car is worth more than the driver has to pay for it, that the driver is going to purchase the car from the leasing company. So in that case, the leasing company's perspective, net present value, looks like this. The amount that they purchased the car for when they bought it from the manufacturer, plus the present value of all of the lease payments that they've collected from the driver. Now, we know that the driver is going to purchase this for the residual value R. And this is because the market value is higher than the residual value. And the residual value is all that the leasing company can get here. So, they get the residual value, plus they get the, oh, wait a second, they don't get any disposition fee. The disposition fee is only if the driver does not purchase the car. So all they get is the residual value, and of course, we have to discount that too. This is the leasing company's net present value if the market value stays high. Well, that begs the question, what happens if market value F is less than R, the residual value? Now, the driver is unlikely to purchase the vehicle at the end of the lease. So, again, the leasing company's net present value is going to be what they paid for the car, everything that they've collected from the driver who makes his or her monthly payments. Now, all they can get is the market value. The driver puts the car back to them, they get this market value from auction, plus they get the disposition fee, if there is anyone in the lease. We have to discount that to present value. So we see here, I've tried to clean up the terminology, the difference between F and R, and I've said there's two net present value functions depending upon what the driver does, and we know that what the driver does depends on whether the market value is high or low, higher than the residual, which is fixed. This is a value that is on the books, it's in the lease agreement, it's not in the marketplace, and the leasing company doesn't know until the end of the lease what the driver is going to do. So let's move back from the leasing company to the perspective of the driver, and we see that a leasing cash flow diagram might actually look like this. Here are the lease payments, L. We know we have to add on to that T. Here's the end of the lease. But then, at the end of, sorry, that's supposed to be a T. At the end of the lease, the driver might decide to go get a loan and purchase the car. If that's the case, then they're going to have some new loan payment. We don't know, if this is 48 months, then maybe they'll have a 3-year loan. That's another 36 months, 48 plus 36, 84. And this is going to be a new, we'll call it A2, a new loan payment that they get from a bank. Now this is a cash flow diagram that keeps the car not for 4 years, but now we're out here at 7 years. The conventional wisdom is that if you want to replace your new car fairly often, that would be the only case in which leasing works for you. But here we see someone who chose to lease for 4 years, decided they really liked the car, they kept it for 7 years. During this period, of course, they're paying for depreciation and money factor. Here, they're paying, even though they incur, the car still depreciates, here they're paying the purchase price of the car, but they're financing that. So they're paying interest and principal and, of course, taxes in their purchase of here the car is used, but they're buying it. So lease is always a temporary condition, and here the lease is for the first 48 months, and here the condition is buy. We have to compare that to the earlier cash flow diagram that we saw in one of our previous videos. Remember, this is the lease cash flow diagram here. The real comparison is, and we can have the same thing, where we buy it and we work 48. In this case, we're going to pay off the entire thing, call this A1, and this is a buy option where we buy it from time 0. We don't lease it for 4 years first. Now here it's all paid off. There are no payments that go all the way out to 84. So now we have two cash flow diagrams. The lease cash flow diagram, and we had a formula for that in the previous video for net present value, and that's followed by a purchase period. And then we have just the purchase period, and that's followed by, we no longer have to pay any principal or any interest. And this is how we determine if the leasing option is better for us than the buying option. We take both this and discount it to a net present value, and this, and we discount it to a net present value. The way to do that is to take this A2, multiply by a present worth factor, and we should be familiar with these present worth factors by now. R1 plus R to the n. Now this n is going to be the 36 months of this loan. So we'd start 0, 1, 2, n here is the duration of the second loan. But we're not done, because all of this loan happens in the future, begins at 48 months. All we've done is we've taken these payments and we moved them to 48. Now we have to move them all the way back to 0, and so we need another factor, and that's 1 or, it's 1 plus R, and now we put in the 48. That equals this net present value of the A2 of the purchase. So we take the net present value of the lease, compare that to the net present value of the buy. Whichever of these is cheaper, or less expensive, that's the financing mechanism that we want to use to get the car that we like. The advantage of this is the leasing arrangement comes with this second decision point right here at the end of the lease. The leasing arrangement, you don't take any of this risk that the car will depreciate more quickly than the experts think it's going to depreciate. When you buy a car, you do take that risk. We saw in the first video that if you don't want to own the car, you can sell it. You can sell it at 48 months. Heck, you can sell it earlier than that if you're really not happy with the car. But you take all of this market value risk when you buy. When you lease, you don't. The leasing company takes that risk. And that may be, even if this net present value is larger than this net present value, that option that you retain with the lease might be enough to justify why you would pay more. Thank you very much for watching this series, and I'll see you at the dealership.